Bună ziua tuturor, bine ai venit în Romania. Welcome everybody. Good day, eh? Welcome to the video. I'm going to mix cultures there, right? Today I'm here with Master Philip Welsh, who is here with me in Romania with his son, and we're all part of a project that we're putting together, which is martial arts projects and of course the dog rescue. And there'll be huskies probably walking around here because it gets busy around here. Now my princess is in the next room sleeping, so I don't think she'll come in here, but the boys are out here. We're going to talk today about respect. The lost art of respect. And what essentially we're going to do with this series, Wisdom of the Grandmaster, whatever that's actually supposed to mean. I just think it sounded cool, so that's why I called it that.
It does sound cool.
But I addressed it in the last video. I'm going to address it again because I had somebody say, who do you think you are to be a Grandmaster? I'm a grandfather. Who are you to ask, actually? That was always my question. Why do you care? But you see, that's also a respect sort of thing. Is why such an intrusive question? Back in the day, when I was a child, and I'm assuming...
Is that a seltzer?
Not anymore. It's been a while.
I'm just checking.
Well, I've been thinking a lot about differences of time and things, like the last 14 years, right? Well, that was the time from when I was born till I went to high school. That seemed like forever, but the last 14 years have gone by really fast. By the way, yes, it is beer.
And huskies.
Cheers.
Beer and huskies.
Beer and huskies. Just like when we were always doing the videos before, there was always beer there. When I was a kid, respect was of the utmost importance. And I'm not talking about the way I behaved to my parents, because I never would have thought of disrespecting them. It was the way I was taught to behave to the world. I called the neighbors, my dad's friend, like it was Mr. Higgins or Mr. White. It wasn't by their first names, ever. Now, I never called my father sir because he didn't like that. He liked to be called dad. And that's what I called him. Your similar experience?
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And my children were raised that way. But it was around the time as my children were in primary school, going into high school, I would say that a shift started to take place. Where parents started to just, you can call him by his first name.
Yeah.
Right? And this was done with the idea of we're being progressive. What a pile of shit.
The idea that your child should be your friend and that they should be able to address you in such a manner as calling you by your first name as opposed to mom or dad. And I think about my one niece, she's early 30s, and her oldest is about 12 now, and he's someone who needs discipline, needs to be corrected, but because of her experience with her dad, she won't do any kind of physical disciplining, and it shows in his behavior. This is someone who, when they were maybe a year and a half, 2, we were at Riverside. My oldest and I we met her and her kids. It was just him at the time, and he was having a meltdown. So I thought, okay, I love kids. I'm good at being nurturing, maybe taking the shit, but I can help with the situation. He turns around and pops me in the face. I was so unimpressed. I looked at my son Ben, who he's very good with kids too. I'm he's all nerves.
I can remember one incident at I think it was a Loeb's, can't remember, but it was at the Expressway, Grand Maris and Google. I was in there shopping with Kurt, because I did the shopping for the most part.
Okay.
And he was being a real little asshole. Because he could be. The oldest is always the one who seems to challenge the most. So he was standing up, so I swatted him on the back end. And this woman gets in my face about it. And I looked at her and said, "What, you want to be next? Just keep going, because I'll drop you too." But the thing was, I never hurt my children. But the surprise of it always checked the behavior. It's actually, there's a term in psychology for it. It's called a pattern reset.
It's changing the focus of the mind.
Yeah, which does wonders for bringing somebody back to the way they should be, rather than letting their behavior continue to go bad. But this was all done under this pile of liberal bullshit. And I say that today. I would never have said that 10 years ago, because I wouldn't want to marginalize anyone. But this group is so marginal in their thinking, I have to.
And to add to what you're saying, sir, something that I was just thinking of, remembering my days working in a group home. So the one person who we talked about off and on through the years, he was extremely autistic. So when I started helping support him, he was 19, about 5'2", 5'1" in height, but he was, very physically strong. Physically, there was nothing wrong with him. He was very, very gifted. He would have actually made a great athlete in any sport. He's very naturally strong, fast, really good hand-eye coordination. But he, I remember talking to his parents when they come to visit him, and they would tell me stories. This is someone who's very physically aggressive, a lot of behaviors. And his parents would tell me stories about when he was a little boy and what we were dealing with his behaviors at the group home. We were dealing with when he was a little boy and a teenager, and really it hadn't changed. And so they would tell me stories where we were like walking down the street and he loses it, so dad has to restrain him. So he's sitting on the ground behind him if it's holding his hand like this, right? So you can't pinch and bite and headbutt, because he likes to pinch, bite, and headbutt. And a woman was going by, like a bigger woman who was apparently very liberal, socialist in her mentality, and thinking that he was abusing his son and was getting ready to beat up on him. And he was trying to explain the situation to her, and she wasn't buying it. So finally he let go of his son so that she could see with her own eyes, and then after she saw what was actually happening, she walked away and left the situation. But again, you have people who, are creating situations in today's society where discipline, self-respect, taking personal responsibility for your actions is not encouraged, right? It's blaming someone else.
Exactly. And it's interesting because I was very strict with my children, as my life was very strict. However, I had a blast, because they have conflated the idea that discipline is somehow or another rigid and harsh, where it's not. My mother and father were great parents. I realize not everybody has that blessing, because it's a blessing. Prepared me for the world. And it was through teaching respect as a foundation that I learned that, because if I was disrespectful, there were consequences. And what was funny about the consequences was it didn't become so much that the punishment mattered. I didn't want to disappoint them. And it wasn't, somebody will say, well, that's terrible. You wouldn't want to disappoint them. So you disappointed them all the time. No, I didn't. They were very proud of me, because they were real people. They weren't people living in an ideological world. And you gotta understand the power of words. Ideology comes from the term, partially, idiot. And the Western culture has gone completely off the rails with this concept that everything has to be a level playing field. And, whether it's children, whether it's adults, whether it is racial, whether it is gender, whether it doesn't, they think there has to be a level playing field, and there cannot be one.
Yeah, agreed. It's a huge untruth why I have to push forward.
Well, when I was in one of the group sessions, not a psychological group session, a business group session, with Lee Miltier, and I can't remember why I brought this up. But we're talking about wage disparities between men and women. And of course, that's a big deal in the United States right now. Wage disparities between men and women, and it's because of this hierarchy system, and you get all these libtards like Whoopi Goldberg shooting their mouths off, and Whoopi Goldberg is a waste of skin. And am I being disrespectful? Yeah, I am, because she's got it coming. And at my age, I get to be grumpy. But if you actually look at the most egalitarian country in the world, where the playing field is level, which is Denmark, equal opportunity is something to behold in that country. There's a bigger wage disparity in that country than there is anywhere else in the world, because of the fact that the playing field was leveled correctly by simply upholding human rights laws, not by all this other garbage that goes on today.
And excessive laws to control.
And the reason women make different choices than men, because when there is no virtue signaling, no crap, they don't feel pressured into, I have to do this job because I don't want people to come back on me, because I'm not behaving the way I'm supposed to behave according to somebody who's never done anything with their life. Because you will also find that common thread as well. And it gets down to the fact that people have to have one thing in their life and they'll be okay, and that's meaning. If you have no meaning in your life, you will not survive, and you will turn into one of these people who flip everybody off and bust into, different events to impose their will because they have no meaning in their life.
And one of the things to add to what you just said is that the meaning for life comes from each one of us, the choices that we make in terms of what our goals and dreams are. That's what your purpose in life is. It doesn't come, it's like your ethics and morality. They don't come from the government or some social push to comply and conform with this. They come from within you, what the truth is, and the love and ethics, being kind, compassionate, respectful, and this moving in the direction of what we want to talk about is that this is part of the essence of martial arts, of judo, is respect and ethics and morals. And you were talking about this at a date that I think for both of us when we were young, we were looking at martial arts and viewing people who teach, train, who made this their life, they're supposed to be a shining example of this. It's supposed to be the essence of this, breathing, walking, eating this. And right now, we're seeing a lack of that really.
Well, I immediately think of, for martial arts, respect is a cornerstone. It's one of the major building blocks that made the martial arts once great.
And so something we should probably point out to you in terms of respect is, if you don't have respect for yourself, then you're not going to have respect for someone else, because your relationship with yourself is the main one that's the most important. And every other relationship is a reflection of your self-relationship.
Exactly.
So if you don't love and respect yourself, it's going to be hard for you to love and respect those around you.
And the student of any martial art should also want to seek the student-teacher relationship.
Yeah. Yes.
Which is also, in a lot of ways, a parent-child relationship. It's the same thing, except on a different topic.
Agreed.
And it always comes to mind one student that I had, that you know very well, who was older than me, I won't say Gary's name. Oh, darn. Nice guy. Don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing this man in any way. But in the dojo, he did okay with being respectful. But in real life, I was always just Art. And he suffered because because he was older, he wanted to position himself into a place of where I would go to him for advice. That ain't going to happen in the martial arts.
Yeah, his mindset was very much that because he's older, he should be the teacher, he should be the one giving out the orders, the one that everyone else is coming to, even though he doesn't have the experience, knowledge, and training to be in that place.
And, you know, the thing about martial arts training or anything else like it is, it doesn't matter how long you're in, you can't catch up to me. Unless I die. And then you can catch up in years because, you know, that's the way time is. You can't, well, I'm going to catch up to him. You can't catch up to the guy unless the guy stops training and disappears.
Yeah.
Right? Because time is what it is. If there's 10 years, if it's 40 and 30 years, it's going to be 50 and 40 years after that. And you get this idea in there that there isn't. But the discipline in the martial arts is for the student. Now, I remember, I guess I have to tell the story. I have to. Back in the early 90s, we've gone to a tournament in London, Ontario. Master John Kim. And Master Kim was just an awesome human being. I thought the world of this man. And I cannot say that about a lot of the Korean grandmasters. Because they're very, they distance themselves greatly. They're very busy trying to look, back in that, I don't know about today because I don't participate in that stuff, but back in those days, we used to call it the Korean Mafia. You know, they're walking around there in their three-piece suits, and these are expensive suits, right? And, you know, with their arms folded, glaring around at things. But, you know, you treat these people with great respect because of what they've done in their lives. But Grandmaster Kim, well, it was just Master Kim in those days, but, you know, he was different. And he spoke to his students very differently and all that. And he came to me and he said, Art, I want you to center referee a ring for me. It's a tough division. So come on. You know. Yes, sir. Let's do it. So he takes me to this ring, and it's 13 or 14-year-old red and black belt. And it's co-ed.
Okay.
Because there were simply not enough that age to have two divisions and not have everybody win. And at that age, the girls tend to have a bit of an advantage because they tend to reach puberty a little bit sooner than the boys do. But it was a pretty good division. But this one fight, this first degree black belt boy and a red belt girl. And that worried me as I'm starting it. So I got four corner judges, and I'm the center, the referee. And I start this fight. She beat the snot out of this kid. This wasn't even a contest, right? It was like, wow, where did this little fireball come from? Right? And she won. As soon as I put her hand up, the parents of this boy were in my face. And I was still holding onto her arm because I was a racist that their son did not win.
Maybe he was Asian?
No, he was Indian, Pakistani, somewhere in that region.
Okay.
What is that? Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. Nice kid. Parents, I looked at the father and I said, go talk to the tournament director. Your kid lost. And my four corner judges were cowards and they didn't want to back me up. The kid wasn't, the kid needed work. He was not, maybe he did great kata, I don't know, but he got clobbered. So Master Kim comes over, and this has been a long day as it was. This is towards the end of the day because we're doing red and black, right? The
Yeah.
men's black belts after this. And he comes over to me and he says, I talked to him privately, and he goes over to the guy and he says, get out of my tournament. You disrespected my judges. I know this man personally, I've known him for a long time. He's a very honest man. If he says your son lost, he lost. And by the way, find another school to train. This is one of his students. He threw them out of the school.
Oh,
And he looked at me and says, I will not tolerate disrespect in my dojo, period. Don't care what it costs me. And that's one of the things that made him
really good.
what he was. And then, on top of all of that, he says, okay, take a break. I need you for men's black belt. You got a half hour, whatever.
Yeah.
Go take a break. Yes, sir. Because I was third degree at that point. Right? So I go outside, and his best friend has got a sub shop outside. Korean subs.
Oh, nice.
Right? Oh, and Kurt's out there with me, right? And I'm getting this sub made, and Master Kim comes over to me, he looks at me and says exactly, oh, Art, don't eat that shit. Give it to your son. So I give Kurt this submarine that if you poured it out on the table, would take the finish off the table. There was so much hot sauce on it. And he brought me into the Grandmaster's room for Korean food.
Oh, man.
And sat me in there, his wife loaded me up with this plate. My instructor, Philip Holohan, didn't get to go in there. Because he wasn't high enough rank. If you don't think that wasn't funny. I had a lot of fun with that. I go, sir, guess where I was? Where? I was wondering where you went, boy. So I was in the Grandmaster's room. What do you mean? So the Grandmaster came and fed me. Well, I didn't eat one of those subs. It was great. Yeah, third degree black belt. I'm in there with all these knights. And, they looked at me at first. And every one of them was, yeah, how you doing?
Yeah.
Respect, because respect is two ways.
Exactly.
And today,
Exactly.
it's lost, and so the experience is lost. Now, why? When did it happen? It happened in sport, boys and girls, because this is where you see the deterioration happen. Because sport gets elevated to something that it isn't,
It's not important.
which is important.
It's not
It's
important.
not important. But that's the Western culture influence.
Yeah, and like it's what you just said. I think about something I've observed over the last number of years with that is that you have people who whatever the sport is, they're amateur, pro, whatever, and their goals to go to the Olympics or whatever, and then after they achieve that and they go and they get the gold or they have that Olympic experience. Quite often the attitude is that they've accomplished their life goal, now they're stepping back to life,
Oh, yeah.
and they're going down. That's just like one experience, one moment. You're you're only like 25 or whatever, and you're lots of life to go still.
Well, how many sports stars, when their career's over, go off the rails with drugs and alcohol?
No, exactly.
Because there's nothing left.
Yeah, because what we're talking about is that your purpose and your meaning in life comes from you, within you, whatever your goals and dreams are. Once you achieve a goal, it's not a goal. You should have like multiple goals anyway.
And you look at ring fighting today, and you get men that want to beat each other up. It's really not my business, but it's not martial arts.
No, and you need to stop calling
And I need to stop calling it that. Yeah.
because UFC type things is not martial arts, it's sports fighting, and half these guys have no martial arts training.
Well, before Grandmaster Shim was murdered, he wanted them, the World Taekwondo Federation, to change it to Taekwondo sport.
Yeah.
To differentiate it, because you're not teaching a martial. This isn't a martial art. This is a sport. It's
Exactly.
like calling lacrosse a martial art,
No, exactly.
and because it's not. Martial arts can be in there, but it's not a martial art.
If you look at Taekwondo, what is taught and what the focus is, is like the Korean arts are known for the high kicks, which can be fun.
It's a lot of
It
fun.
can be fun, especially when we're younger. But
Much younger.
what's the essence of that martial art? The self-defense, the discipline, training for you as a person inside there that take and apply to your life, so that when you achieve that goal, you don't suddenly go off the deep end and get depressed and go into drugs because you think that there's no more life left.
And the other issue with sport is sports people tend to be very disrespectful typically anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's such an ego-based idea, and I'm going to bring him up because I can, which is Andrew Tate. And Andrew Tate was apparently a kickboxer, and I don't consider kickboxing to be a martial art, but the world does. When they hear about kickboxing, they think about martial arts people. Now, Andrew Tate has a very big mouth, and some of the stuff that comes out of it is, in all honesty, quite true. But I can be guilty of that too. And I don't know the man personally. He is in trouble in Romania for crimes from a few years ago, serious crimes. Whether he is guilty of those crimes, we'll probably never know, because he's going to be tried in England instead of Romania for different crimes. But, at least from my understanding anyway. But his persona, good, bad, or indifferent, damages martial arts.
And just to be clear and clarify, kickboxing is not martial arts.
And another guy who I have a great deal of respect for, Joe Rogan. He was a comedian. Of course, he's got the #1 podcast in the world. I don't typically watch it, depending on the guest. I certainly did watch one with Hulk Hogan in it, because that was fascinating. You know, after Hulk Hogan's conversion. And he's got one out just did with Tucker Carlson, and some of that's really interesting. Joe Rogan is an amazing guy, but he's also viewed, because he did some MMA work, as being a martial artist.
Well, he did do some Taekwondo too. I'm not
Did
sure.
he?
Yeah, I think he's a black belt in Taekwondo.
Good. See, that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah. But somebody who enters into an MMA club and does well doesn't make them a martial artist. It is purely a sport.
Yeah.
Now, if he's got a background in martial arts, then that's a different thing. But he, in all honesty, I would like to talk to him and say, okay, well, talk about that a little bit more. There was another guy that he had on. I can't remember who the guy was, because in all honesty, I don't follow the sport. And this guy actually had a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Well, that's quite an accomplishment when you've got purple belts teaching. You know, purple belts like 5 years or something there. That's quite an accomplishment. But that's a martial art, even though I consider it to be a very sport-oriented martial art. At least they wear gis and belts. And you don't see that in any of this. So and then bad-mouthing each other, like it's a soap opera. Yeah, I know you guys are trying to sell tickets, but we have to get back to, for society to succeed, we've got to get back to the idea that people need to be respectful to each other. Even if they disagree, have a respectful disagreement.
And this is one of the things that we talked about last night when we were talking, is that, the direction society is going back into more older time type life, in terms of needing to have values, the family to be together, to stay together, and getting back to values, ethics, what's true in that this push to conform and comply to socialist, communist lies that are nothing about lies, just, with focus on taking away your freedom under the guise of somehow being good to you.
Well, the thought as I think it was Elon Musk who said that the woke mind virus is actually just a new name for communism.
Exactly.
But what these people are missing, and they're missing it terribly, it's, okay, so I'm going to go down the kitchen and get that really big butcher knife.
Okay.
I'm going to put my hand on the table, I'm going to go crunch, cut off my thumb. And then I'm going to be surprised that my thumb was cut off. You okay, big guy? I'm going to be surprised my thumb was cut off. But you know what I'm going to do next? I'm going to cut this finger off. Because their ideology has been tried countless times. And it does the same thing every time. And the statistic they, of course, don't want to talk about is the that ideology has murdered more people in the 20th century than the two wars did put together. And that's just Joseph Stalin. Right? It is an epic failure. And it always will be an epic failure. Because it's inherent the way it is.
Well, since we talked about that, let's put a plug in for Romania. So one of the reasons that Sir loves Romania, and one of the things I love about Romania too, is that they have the experience of communism. And when communism fell hard, it fell because they removed it.
Yeah, it was a violent revolution.
It was a very violent revolution that those in power have been trying to keep the truth about that hidden. Because that idea that you can keep complying and somehow that the evil is going to go away isn't true.
And actually, right now, Romania is leading the charge, and as it is put, making Europe great again, because Europe was once a great place, and East Europe is awesome, because East Europe remembers its past, because that communism fell, the Berlin Wall fell in 89.
Yeah, and they used to say that would never fall, the Soviet Union would always be together, and that all fell.
And you know what we're actually going to have to do in the video, is we'll wrap this one up, but we have to do in the video is the reasons we left Canada. Because I've had people ask me, why would you leave a great country like Canada? Because the term great and Canada don't go together anymore. And it's got nothing to do with patriotism or anything else. But we'll do that in a subsequent video.
Yeah.
Because it is worth a discussion. Anyways, guys, think about it. You're running a dojo, push respect. You'll see a tremendous difference in everything that works for your dojo. Because respect and discipline go hand in hand. I am, and if I'm wrong, please tell me, I am one of the most disciplined people you will ever meet.
Agreed.
Right? I get up what time do I get up? At midnight? Every day?
12:30.
12:30.
I go to hear you getting up.
Go to bed between 4:30 and 5:30
Yeah.
in the afternoon. I get up at 12:30, and I work. Day in, day out, nothing ever changes. Sometimes because we've got puppies around, I get thrown off the rails for an hour or so. Because they are demanding little people. And they're going to play now. And hopefully they won't bump into anything. Knock the camera over, yeah. But that goes hand in hand, that ability. And while disciplined lives are harsh, no, I have a great time. Life is good. I have no complaints. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.